Hello, my name is Pieper. I am an author and journalist, although I'm not sure what that second one means these days. I write in all sorts of different fields and modes. I started as a journalist, I trained as a journalist back in Melbourne, and I am the author of a couple of non-fiction books. Firstly, the feel-good hit of the year was a memoir, which I wrote when I was about 27, which is early, but think of it as like a quarterly installment, I guess. And that's the story of growing up in a hippie commune and then leaving the hippie commune and sort of trying to assimilate to a society and getting it wrong for a lot of the time and becoming sort of a mediocre gangster and then slowly learning how to be a decent human being. The follow-up to that book was a collection of essays called Mistakes Were Made, which is sort of an apology for the first book to my mum. After that, I was kind of done with non-fiction for a while, and so I wanted to write about something else. And I'd always kind of wanted to be a novelist. When I was little, I loved reading novels. I wanted to see if I could write one. You know, when I was a kid, they gave me a lot of entertainment, a lot of pleasure. I used to love reading. This was before Instagram, so I had more time to read. And it was, you know, where I came from, reading was kind of a window into a wider world, you know, a kind of a frame of reference beyond just kind of the little part of the world in which I lived, which I think is a valuable function of literature. So I wanted to see if I could do that. I'd also gotten a reputation as something of a comedy writer, a humorist, and so I wrote the saddest book in the world, which is the Toymaker. It's a new direction for me. It's been out a little while. People seem to like it. I highly recommend it. My mum likes it, and it's partially a historical novel. It's a story about the Holocaust, you know, the genocide in Europe in the middle of the last century, and how that's played out in Australia, you know, all around the world, the trauma of that 2 generations on, the lessons we've learned, or also failed to learn, from humanity's propensity to be callous, cruel, and evil to one another. And this is all very vague and philosophical, but it's sort of it's a novel about the things that humanity is willing to do, the evils large and small that it's willing to let slide in order to protect your way of life. It's kind of I guess it's a thriller. It's about the story of one man trying to survive the Holocaust, and then the legacy on his grandchildren and how that plays out. And I wanted to explore how that trauma plays out a couple of generations on, and I also wanted to explore this idea, because when I was researching the book, I had this idea that how did it happen? You know, that's the question that scholars of the Holocaust have been asking themselves forever. How does this happen? And some scholars argue that it can't be understood. You know, there was just a singular event of evil that has no precedent and, you know, can't be repeated. But I still think we have a duty to try and understand it. And so this is my attempt to understand my corner of that. And one thing that I came up with is the realization that the bad guy never thinks he's the bad guy. You know, even no evil person ever wakes up in the morning like, well, another day of evil. Everyone who does despicable things does so because they think they're in the right. And even if they're aware of what they're doing is wrong in the moment, it's to justify something else. You know, it's to justify a greater good along the line. But that's how great evil is done, you know. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, is that old idiom. So I thought the book kind of goes some way to explore that. Writing it was a long process. I did a lot of research. I wrote a lot of it in Prague, where it's partially set. Thanks to the auspices of UNESCO, who were very kind. They gave me a little scholarship to head over there and live and write and research. Thank you, UNESCO, by the way. So, you know, I saw the camps, I saw the legacy, you know, I read the documents. All this was very fresh in my mind. And there's one moment, there's one moment I can point to, particularly when the thing started to kind of coalesce in my mind. I visited this place in Prague, this station called Bubny Station, which is just kind of a commuter station where the victims of the Holocaust, the citizens of Prague were deported from those stations to the concentration camps, and sadly for most of them their deaths. And it's just a regular station, you know, on the days that it was happening they just shipped out, nobody said anything. Nobody did anything to stop it. You know, they were silent. They watched this atrocity, this budding atrocity begin, and they did nothing about it. So now there's a monument to silence there. It's a very touching monument. It's just the train tracks that they left on pointed up towards heaven, where most of the people who left on those tracks ended up. And so that's stuck in my mind. I think that's something worth thinking about today, particularly in Australia, particularly in this world when we are becoming increasingly insular and nationalistic. We have to remember to listen and to be empathetic and to try not to be too caught up in our own fears and protections. So that's my latest project. I came to that by a long path. It took me a long time to get there, which would probably be my advice to young writers, is take your time. You know, it takes a little while to get good. Some critics would argue that I'm still in the process of getting good. But take time, read very widely, and find the thing that you love and you're good at, and be aware that it will change. You know, you don't have to be good at the bat, you just have to be patient and you have to work hard, and slowly you'll get better. You know, in the beginning, you get into writing because you love reading, hopefully, and so that means you've got good taste. The trick is to find the good tastes that you can offer the world and build on that. Find that little thing that no one else can do and just slowly build on that, and the rest of it will come about. And take your time, you know, it's not a rush. And particularly in this world where everything you ever write is archived for all eternity online, I can highly recommend just relax a little bit before you publish and go slowly and find your way.